Government in this debate fundamentally misunderstands the reason why animal rights actually exist, even though they allude to this later in the arguments. So they come to tell us at first that this thing is not about animal conservation and protection, that it's about placing excessive premiums on animals. And then later on in their speech, in the Prime Minister's speech, come to tell us that the reason why we have animal rights in the first place is to protect animals, and that is what we feel is very important in today's debate. Because placing excessive premiums on animals as an argument and as an argument practically and morally is one that is not feasible at all in the human world. So if you decide to run with the idea that these animals are somehow going to benefit from this due to their irrationality and their inability to understand the existence of any of these rights, we might as well all go home from here today. The main crux of this debate is how animal rights actually help humans themselves maintain their ecosystem and also further their lives at the end of the day. So they tell us first of all that we don't need to ascribe resources that are somewhere that we can use for something else to another thing, because resources are finite. And by principle, we definitely agree with this. And that is why we want to protect the animal resources that are already here, hence the existence of animal rights. And we also think that the example he gave about human selfishness is perfectly okay in today's debate. Yes, we as human beings are allowed to make that moral judgment for our continuity in today's debate. And what is that basic moral judgment? That whatever is done in favor of our own continuity is what we want to pursue. And be it saving animals, right as it is right now, and conserving them, that is okay. Please sit easy. So let's reset this motion to what animal rights really are about. It's about conservation and protecting these animals. So we understand that right now, as it is in the ecosystem, even though animals reproduce, like the killing that we have of these animals trumps the reproduction of these animals at the end of the day. So this is why rights exist, right? Rights exist to limit and fence what we see as human encroachment into the ecosystem that will at the end of the day and in the long run disturb them. So it's very important in today's debate that we understand that there's a dire need for these rights to actually exist. And so whatever sentimental do-goodry that is attached to it is actually good. And in my second point, I'll be showing you in principle why do-goodry is actually the best for us. I'll take it.
You read the most, like it says an animal's most basic rights, like a human being. Now the right to life is the most basic right of all rights, which means in all them they're not going to kill animals at any point in time.
The argument here is the need to avoid suffering. And in our model, we've already told you about the rationality of animals, so we don't even think that that's supposed to play into today's debate in the worst case scenario. And even in the best case scenario where we ascribe rights to these animals for whatever, we feel that the supreme moral idea that whatever we do in continuity of our own good still stands in today's debate. So let's talk about the reason why we need to have do-goodry as a principle. So if you feel that it's sentimental, that protecting animal rights is somehow sentimental do-goodry, and we decide to use this as a principle we decide to let go of this as a principle, it is very dangerous and problematic. And here's why. This do-goodry actually serves our interest at the end of the day. And because we cannot always want immediate consumption over delayed gratification, it is very important that we have people and we have rights activists who are concerned about the rights and who use this principle of do-goodry to further the work they do. An analogy is very simple. Just because something doesn't personally affect you right now doesn't mean it's not coming to knock at your doorstep now. Now, at the particular moment when you're doing it, can it be seen as do-goodry? Obviously, and that's what the opening government is telling us. But we're telling that in the long run, the delayed gratification of probably killing up all these animals or not protecting them at all is harmful to the ecosystem and to humans themselves at the end of the day. In today's debate, we want to concede one very important thing, basically, that animals themselves can never be granted full personhood, basically because of their rationality, how they are not the same with humans, and a variety of other reasons that obviously that are very self-evident. But the reason why we need to conserve these animals is not because of animals themselves being animals. The reason why we need to conserve these animals is because these animals are a means to an end for humans ourselves, and that's the reason why these animals need to be conserved. We also feel, secondly, that basically that the sign of a civilized society, right, is one which takes into consideration what is happening at this time and decides to leave a lot of the resources which are on ground for posterity's sake. So what are we teaching our children about violence if we decide to kill off animals? What are we teaching about our children about preservation and conservation if all these animals are left unprotected and keep dying in the numerous droves that they have been dying so far? It's very important that we understand that in this debate, first of all, these animals themselves, the rights that these animals have in today's debate is never really going to be one of are these animals supposed to die? Because if it's like that, we're not going to have any debate up here, or the motion will be something concerning vegans and vegetarians versus people who eat meat. But the main reason and the main crux for animal rights, as we know all over the world, and normal balance, is about protectionism and conserving animals. I'll take it.
Okay, so can your goal of animal preservation still be achieved without this facade of animal rights?
No, it can't really, because we've seen that even in the status quo, as this has been propounded, even though it's not as strong as it ought to be, people are still killing these animals, and that's why we need these rights in the first place, serving as a fence, because without these rights going forward, some of these animals are no longer there. Think of the amount of animals and animal resources that we've lost over the millennia just because some of these rights weren't there, or humans weren't rational enough at that particular time, or ingenious enough at that particular time to think of protecting these animals, and how we are suffering that in our current ecosystem now, and the dwindling resources of certain rare animals such as the rare Asian white tiger and all of that. So from side opening government opposition into this debate, we say principally that do-goodery is good. Why? Because do-goodery acts as a check against immediate consumption and focuses on delayed gratification. So it's very important that we look at the long term and not just what we decide to gain in the short term. And that second, that we need these animals to be here because of the ecosystem. Whatever they tell you about placing excessive premiums in today's debate doesn't fly at all, because if the argument is about placing excessive premiums, then we will have no debate at the end of the day. It's very important that we understand that the reason why animal rights exist are for protectionism and conservation, and not because we feel we need to give these animals added rights because of their personhood as human beings. Proudly go.